Welcome. Let's talk about optimizing your burn rate. There are two questions we need to ask ourselves right now, and it boils down to this. Number one, how much resources do you currently have? And number two, at what rate will you consume those resources? Now is a good time to go through that and work out what you have precisely, and then start working out if we're talking about food here. If we have one particular item, let's say we have 10 of these items, 10 blocks, whatever they are. They could represent frozen meals. They could represent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's our quantity, whatever this thing is. Frozen meals, whatever. And we have to work out how long this is going to take us to deplete this resource. This is for one item. Now, obviously, you're probably going to make a meal plan out of this. Hopefully, you've got an idea for what you're going to have for breakfast, and an idea for lunch, and then an idea for dinner. So for us, these are our dinner meals. So we've clearly got 10 days where we can we don't have to be back in a shopping centre buying more meals. We've taken ourselves out of that cycle, and this is up to us. What we could do though is that maybe some of these meals here could be complemented with something else to make them last 2 days, and so forth. And this is what you have to ask yourself here, or work out yourself. What components do you have? What combinations of those components that you have, and how long do you think you can stretch this material out for? I mean, the classic one at the moment is toilet paper. Everyone's jumping up and down about a lack of toilet paper. The supply chain is basically empty. Coles, Woolworths, they're just saying that we have none ourselves. So it'll take a little while for those systems to come back online. What we need to do though is decide, well, okay, how much of this resource we have, and then go, well, what's my burn rate? How much of this am I actually using on a daily basis? If I have one roll, can I make that, stretch that to 2 days, 3 days, 4 days? I have no idea. I mean, surely individuals could probably make them last 4 or 5 days. Some people might be 10 days. I have no idea. But if you come up with a way of augmenting your usage, you can take that and double your estimated time. So if you've got 5 rolls, let's say, and you're going through them one roll every 2 days, and you come up with an idea that takes you out of that circle, and you're not desperate out there trudging around to 10 different shopping centres looking for toilet paper. Same goes for food. We need to really think about what we have, how we're going to use that, and at some point, if you find out, or you find out that you have an oversupply in certain areas, you've got to assume that within 2 weeks, the system will reboot so much. Hopefully it's less than that. The system will recover enough for normal demand to take place. So we can just go to the shopping centre and buy a normal supply of whatever we want. But these places have tens of thousands of product lines. Just remember that when you're there, Coles, I think probably have maybe not 10,000 product lines in every store, but they probably do across the country. So imagine how this works from their perspective. You've got the local shop here. It's got, like, say, 5,000 different products in there, and those products are shipped in pallets. Now, a truck is not that large, really. You couldn't fit 10,000 pallets or 5,000 pallets in one truck, so it's relied upon its distribution centres. Wherever this is here, this Coles or Woolworths or Aldi or whatever it happens to be. And I know Coles have their own trucks, and Woolworths do as well. That creates a problem, doesn't it? I mean, that alone creates a problem, because you realise that once the store's local capacity has been exceeded, and they ask their supplier for more, and they can't be supplied, then and everyone else, every other store out there is doing the same thing. It's just like what we're doing to each individual store. We're running into the store, thousands of people at a time. Probably is the wrong strategy for most people. You know, we're putting ourselves at risk. I don't think necessarily at risk of corona where I live. No, there are no cases in the city that I live in. That doesn't mean there won't be. Of course there will be. And there probably are unknown cases walking around the streets today that will pop up in stats later on. But if we have a mad rush to the supermarkets, we strip the stock, they can't get resupplied anytime soon because they're on back order at their distribution centres or wherever they're getting their stock from. And imagine how many Coles centres there are. I can think of 4 main Coles outlets here in Ballarat. There's probably 5 or 6, I have no idea. And the same goes for Woolworths as well. There's a bunch of Aldis. There's a lot of trucks on that to supply one store. And imagine the amount of just shipping alone to get this material from this distribution centre, wherever they are. There's probably a number of these centres really, to service the half a dozen Coles that are around in Ballarat. What we need to do is take ourselves out of the equation. You know, go and have a look at what you have in the cupboard. Look at the resources you have. Look at what you can control. Right? You can't control when Coles or worse have new toilet paper. You can't control that. But what you can do is you can go, well, okay, I'll try an alternative method. I've tried a few different ones myself, and to be honest, it was perfectly fine. Let's get back to the topic. So we're talking about if we have if we go through and categorise all the resources we have. Because what we need to know is how many days, right? How many days, number of days. How many days can this collection of food sources supply us? Right? And if you can turn this, 5 days into 10 days by augmenting this supply with a few different things, a few complementary things that aren't in high demand, you might double your expected burn rate. And that takes you out of the shopping centres for probably a week, 10 days, 20 days, who knows. So when you do have to go shopping, like we do most days, we often buy a bread and a milk every few days. Our exposure to, or our risk factor, is going to be far less than trudging around in a shopping centre doing a massive shop all at one time. Hopefully we all have our goods now, hopefully we have enough supply. I know some people don't. The people who have too much, and once you've calibrated how much stock you have at home, and you realise, well, hang on, half of my stuff I've bought, maybe it's going to expire soon. Maybe before you get to this magic number, whatever your number is going to be, it expires. So you think, well, okay, I can get rid of 3 of these, put them back out there in the marketplace, and other people can use them to feed their families. As I said, nothing I was going to say here was all that interesting or useful, and anyone who's raised a family and on a budget knows what I'm talking about. Making sure that you plan out what your action is going to be. So we replace panic with planning. You know, panic, we turn that into a plan, right? We have a plan of action to move forward and go, well, okay, I know. So the first thing that you need to do is working out the quantities of everything that you have. How long does it take for you to use a jar of jam? I have no idea, right? One of these protein bars, right? This is just a Coles brand, what is it? Oh, Nice and Natural brand, actually, sorry. We have 6 of these bars in here, but 180 grams for the whole thing, or individually, I guess. I don't know, never used them before in my life. But I thought, hey, maybe this would be a nice alternative to having something for lunch, or the afternoon snack in particular. That covers me for 6 days. Now, what variation I have in between that, I might have another product on alternate days, or I might have, you know, the rice crackers tomorrow or something. I'm not telling you what to buy, I'm not telling you how to use it, no. You work out what you have and then optimize that quantity. And I bet you'll find you'll be able to go, well, if we just have slightly less of this material, whatever it is, a packet of peas, let's say, it's a kilo. Maybe to the whole family you were using 200 grams a day. So your burn rate, in other words, in 5 days, your kilo is used. But if you can map this back to 100 grams, that resource now is double its lifespan. Again, you're out of the supermarkets, you're not contesting for that resource, which at the moment is a high priority resource for people. I guess one thing I'm doing at the moment is I've decided to take a supplement, which I've never taken supplements before in my life, really. It's a strange idea, but I'm not sure about what nutritional value we'll have going forward. I mean, maybe the supply chain won't bounce back in 2 weeks. Maybe it takes a month. You know, we want to make sure that you have a plan going forward. Get yourself and know your numbers. Work out exactly what you have, right? If you have too much of something, then share that on to someone else. Give it to your family or whatever. That's probably all I've got to say. Thanks for listening, and good luck out there in the shopping centres, and make sure you plan. You know, plan when you're going to be at the shopping centre, plan, understand what you have, understand what you can store, how long this stuff is going to last for. You know, make sure that you're not going to, like, the ultimate tragedy of all of this, if it turns out that we have very few deaths, or the infection rate is curved very quickly here in Australia. If it turns out that we end up with truckloads of wasted food that goes to waste, that will be a tragedy in itself, let alone the poor people who are passing away from this virus. I don't think we need to panic. We just need to plan our way through it, be sensible, you know, and be based in reality, really. Have a bit of fun. Make sure you get some fun foods along the way, you know. And it's not all doom and gloom, you know. Alright, that's enough for me. Thanks a lot. Bye.